Okay, now we are going to discuss JEE Advanced 2020 Paper 2 Chemistry. So the first question has given that is the first, second, third ionization enthalpies I1, I2 and I3 of four atoms with atomic numbers n, n plus 1, n plus 2 and n plus 3 has given. Where it has also given the hint that n must be lesser than 0. N must be lesser than 0. Then what is the value of n? So by looking the ionization enthalpies, we must be able to say which element is supposed to be n. So if suppose that here n is equal to less than 10, that means we can consider the V of neon. These are the elements somewhere nearer to the neon. So that means n less than 10 means if you take the second period, let us assume for example n is equal to 9, then what will be happening? So n is equal to 9, otherwise if you think about the second period, what about the order of ionization enthalpies? It increases from left to right and it is going to be, first ionization enthalpy is going to be very high for the neon. And very also, if you think about the next element, so if I say n is equal to 9, if I say n is equal to, if I take n is equal to 9, then n plus 1 is equal to 10, then what happens? That is, it is a neon configuration. And if you look at the first I1 values, ionization enthalpy values, and the first ionization enthalpy is also more for this element, n plus 1. That means we can guess that it is the element of second period with highest first ionization energy, that is of course the neon. So with that idea, I am assuming that n plus 1 is equal to 10. And this satisfies the n is equal to 9 and which is lesser than the 10. That is the hint as given. So now let us check whether our proposed idea is correct or not. That means once I told you this is the neon, that means this is going to have the first ionization enthalpy. Then you think about this is going to be 11, that means sodium. In the case of sodium, we can say that after removal of one electron, and it gets net gas configuration. That means removal of second electron takes place very tough. That means second ionization enthalpy is supposed to be high. That means we just see that the first and second S. If you look at the second ionization enthalpies for all the four elements, and this is found to be high, and that means what we guess is acceptable. That means by taking n plus 2 is equal to 11, the second ionization enthalpy is greater than, it is highest among the four elements. Yes, sir. Now let us think that for n plus 3, that means going to be 12. When I put n plus 1 is equal to 10, then n is equal to 9 and this is 11, n plus 3 is 12. And n plus 2 is at 12, that is magnesium. Here we can think that the first removal of 2 electrons is easy. That means when you go for third electron, it is going to be tough. Where it possesses higher values because it is very attained the neon configuration. That means if you look at the third ionization enthalpies for this element, it is supposed to be higher when compared to other set of elements. That means you just see that I3 value is highest for which element? This is highest value. So that means no doubt we can say that n plus 1 is equal to 10, assumption is correct, that indicates n is equal to 9. And he is also initially given that n is equal to less than 10, that means we can think of about elements of the second period. Okay, so in that way we have concluded. So the answer is 10. So n is equal to what? 9. This is the answer. So it is an integer question. The first 6 questions ask the integer type here. Yes, this is the question number 2 from paper 2 chemistry. So here they are giving some compounds. They are given some list of compounds and they are passed. They are taken in the burette and those liquids, the substances which are taken in the liquid form and just flowing in this manner. But when it is dropping to down, they just kept some charged comb. A charged comb, normally comb when we weave hair, then it contains some charge normally. That means if you have some electrical charge, that means it is going to behave some like a positive pole or negative pole of the like a battery. So like that. So definitely it is having some electric field, otherwise we can say it is a charged comb, that is nothing but it is having some electric field. So it is having some electric field. If suppose this is a reach of the positive charge, then what happens? Then these substances which are in liquid form, if suppose they possess some polarity, that means based on dipole moment we can say whether it is having the charge. So we can say it is having the charge because the bond are present between hydrogen and fluorine. That electron cloud is not symmetrically shared by two atoms. It is unsymmetrically distributed and it is moving towards the fluorine as it is higher electronegativity. That makes we can say that this molecule attains at one end of negative and other end of positive. Such molecules are called as polar molecules. So such molecules, because of the two poles, one of the pole will be attracted towards the charge which is acquired by this cone. So if you are able to say some substances which are having some polarity, then those substances definitely take deflection on once dropping from the burette. The liquid is dropping from the burette. So we have to identify the substances which are polar like that. So I hope you can say that O2 is a simple diatomic molecule. Definitely we can say it is a non-polar. HF is a polar and HF is a diatomic molecule which is a polar. If you take H2O, what is this H2O? It is a bend shape. As it is the bend shape and having a two lone pairs, and its movement is normally taken towards the movement of the molecule is towards oxygen because oxygen is more electronegative and moreover electron pace is always trying to drag electrons away from the atom. That means the polarity takes from down to top. So we can say that there is a polarity takes in this direction. That means we can say at one end it is having a negative charge and other end it is having a positive charge. Like that, we can say water is also polar. So we must be able to identify which molecule is polar or non-polar, then we can get the answer. So based on VSE pair theory, based on the geometries, we can say whether it is polar or non-polar. So water is also unsymmetrical molecule with a bend shape, and ammonia is also unsymmetrical molecule with a pyramidal shape. It is also polar. And H2O2 is the one, it is having a open book structure. So in open book structure, so this is open book structure. So we have, this is the, in this case it is an open book structure, it is a spinal of the book where there is no scope of cancellation of the bond movements. So here the movement is just moving like this, this bond is polar, it is also moving like this, but the book is in such a way, it is open like that, it is just open like this. So both movements will be taking in this way, V shape, so the net movement will be there, so it is once again a polar. So in this case, it is also we can say polar because the dipole moment is not equal to 0. Based on the structure, we can say whether suppose net polarity is 0 or non-zero. So H2O2, based on the geometry, we can say it is also polar. And CCl4, it is of tetrahedron geometry, and all the outer atoms are the same. So definitely there is a cancellation of all the bond moments, and net resultant moment of bond moments is 0. So it is a net polarity is 0. So it is a non-polar. So in this case dipole moment is equal to 0. That is non-polar. But it is all the four atoms are not the same. That's why it is having a polarity. So CHCl3 is also unsymmetrical molecule because one of the atoms among the four outer atoms of the tetrahedron is the hydrogen. So it is unsymmetrical. It is a polar. And vanillin is it is a hydrocarbon. It is a non-polar. And it is one of the hydronucleus with chlorine, so it gets once again polarity. So we can say that the number of molecules having polarity where dipole moment not equal to 0, they have two poles of plus and minus. They are able to deflect towards this charge at home. So answer is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can say in this question the answer will be 6. The integer question. Here question number 3 of paper 2 chemistry advanced. So here it is given that it is a stoichiometry question and also the information related to that is the reaction between KMnO4 and iodide. So how KMnO4 and iodide interact one to another? It normally influenced by the medium, whether it is taken of acidic medium or basic medium like that. So with reference to that a person is asking. That is the chemical reaction between stoichiometric quantities of KMnO4 and Ka in weakly basic solution. So he has given that it is a weakly basic solution. What is the number of moles of I2 released for 4 moles of KMnO4 consumed for consumption of 4 moles of KMnO4? So let us having an idea that normally the KMnO4 we have variety of reactions. You can say that normally MnO4 minus we have normally different conversions as per the medium. It is an oxidizing agent, so the permanganate converted to manganese, and there is a scope of conversion to MnO2, and there is a scope of conversion to MnO4 minus 2. So these are the conversions normally happen by permanganate. It is influenced by the medium. So it is normally happens in acidic medium, whereas this is normally happens in basic medium. These two reactions. I can say the second one is a weakly basic. It is weakly basic, and the last one is a strongly basic. So when pH is going to be around 10, the last reaction it takes place. When pH is going to be around 8, like that, it is a weakly basic. The second reaction takes place where MnO2, the brown precipitate will be formed normally. So as per this question, there is a weakly basic. So we have to get consider that permanganate is converted to MnO2, and then. And if you think about iodide also, there is interaction with potassium iodide. This iodide conversion is also influenced by the medium. So if you look at the reactions of iodide, normally this iodide is converted to I2, and there is also scope of conversion of iodide into IO3 minus. And which conversion takes place, that is also influenced by the medium. And we studied in the book, that is we studied in the reactions of even at the time of what is that hydrogen peroxide, or at the reactions of KMnO4. In D black elements we have the chemistry of KMnO4, where it functions as an oxidizing agent, how it will interact with potassium iodide as per the medium. So it is noted that in acid medium the conversion will be like this, but in basic medium this is the conversion. So based on this data we can say that we have to consider this reaction and this reaction. We have to consider this reaction. Okay, so these two reactions you have to consider, and overall reaction is what? So this is a reaction of, we can say, reducing of permanganate. It is a reaction of oxidation of iodide. If we just add the two reactions, we can understand what is going to be the net reaction. So what is net reaction? If we balance the equation, so that is MnO4 minus with iodide. What are the products? The products is MnO2 and IO3 minus. These are the products. Let us try to balance this. Okay, even by looking this reaction, of course we are not balanced right now. There is no question of I2 formation. That means there is no scope to form of iodine in this reaction. So we can say that, but is asking that how many moles of I2 will be resulted by consumption of 4 moles of permanganate. So as per this reaction, theoretical knowledge of this chemical reaction, we can say that there is no scope of forming of I2 moles. So answer will be 0. Answer is 0. So I can say that the integer percentage to answer will be 0. 0 is the answer. So if we having this knowledge, this is now the question number 2. So question number 4. Number 2, question number 4. So this is a question related to, that is acidified solution of potassium chromate is interacted with hydrogen peroxide, but the medium taken is an organic solvent. Here they took as amyl alcohol. An acidified solution of potassium chromate was layered with an equal volume of amyl alcohol. So first initially there is a, suppose there is it is a little part of permanganate. The chromate, it is a little part of chromate, acidified chromate. And to this, up to this equal volume of this is added of some organic layer. Some organic layer is added. Some organic solvent. Some organic solvent is added. So there is acidified chromate. To this equal volume of some organic solvent like amyl alcohol is added. Then it was taken for after addition of okay, to this they added. They just added very little of 1 ml of 3% of H2O. To this they added 1 ml of 3% H2O. So we are expecting the reaction here is actually between chromate and H2O. And the medium is suggested is organic solvent. So then it is noted that there is an appearance of a blue color at the part of organic layer. And he is saying that that blue color is due to formation of a chromium 6 compound. That is referred as X. Is due to formation of chromium 6. That means oxidation number of chromium is +6. So can you say then what is you identify that compound, then you report that how many oxygen atoms is connected to chromium through single bond. That is the question here. Okay, so how to understand this reaction? It is a theoretical knowledge related to the chemical reaction between chromate and hydrogen peroxide, and which is happening in the organic solvent, in the medium of organic solvent. So normally we have, they took a slightly acidified form of chromate. So that acidified form of chromate, so how it is going to interact with hydrogen peroxide? So here we can write that the reaction is, we can write so H2O2 that may be converted as H2O plus O2. This is a possible reaction of hydrogen peroxide normally. Hydrogen peroxide is a somewhat unstable compound. It once decomposed, it is able to evolve oxygen gas. So once we are added a little amount of hydrogen peroxide, 1 ml of precursor hydrogen peroxide through this mixture, that is a chromate and organic solvent, and having slightly acidic solution. So then it is decomposed initially in this manner, and this oxygen is responsible to interact with chromate, and how that is going to be formed. I can say that here it is CrO4 minus 2, which may be interacted with oxygen, and of course he is saying that there is an acidic medium. So as they are saying that is acidic medium, so here I can expect the result will be there is a formation of CrO5 plus H2. So I am just explaining that the reaction and showing that the hydrogen peroxide is an unstable compound which evolves oxygen gas. That evolved oxygen in the medium that may be interacted with acidified form of chromate, and thereby the chromate ion is converted into a neutral compound, namely CrO5. That is referred as a chromium peroxide, where once again the oxidation number of chromium is 6 only. Here also 6, here also oxidation number is 6, here also it is 6. So what is the overall reaction now I can say? The reaction between here happened here, 2H2O2 is interacting with the chromate, CrO4 minus 2 in acid medium. So the reaction is going to be, we can write CrO5 plus 3 molecules of water. So this is a balanced equation. Okay, 1 chromium, 1 chromium. Hydrogens 4, so 6 hydrogen. Oxygens 4, 8. Here 5 plus 3. It is a balanced equation. So this is the reaction we are expecting happening in this test tube. So here what is happening? It is actually this compound, it is a peroxide compound. This is hydrogen peroxide is unstable. But yes, chromium peroxide is somewhat stable in this situation of presence of some organic solvent. Here of course the organic solvent is amyl alcohol is taken. That means it is a pentanol, pentyl alcohol. So that in that medium the reaction is performed. So the obtained product is chromium CrO5, and the question is also related to this compound. So what is the structure of CrO5? If you are able to know, then we can give the answer. So the CrO5 is having the CrO5, the structure of CrO5 you can write is a butterfly structure. So this is the structure of CrO5. Here 4 oxygens in the form of peroxy, whereas 1 oxygen is a normal oxygen. As chromium links with the neighboring oxygens via 6 bonds. That's why the charge of this is plus 6. That is, it's a chromium 6 compound. Okay. So what is the answer? That is how many oxygens are connected to chromium via single bonds? 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 oxygens. But this is not connected to chromium by single bond. That's why answer is 4. So answer is 4. Okay. So this is one of the reaction happens in organic solvents, where the chromate, acidified form of chromate, interact with hydrogen peroxide and gives a compound which exhibits a blue color, that is a chromium peroxide. Okay, this is the reaction. But if you take if suppose this solvent is not organic, if you are interested to perform in water, exclusively in presence of aqueous medium, then this compound is not going to be stabilized. Okay, that is once again its nature is an oxidizing agent, that is once again reduced to Cr+3 and responsible to oxidize some other substances. So in order to make it as a stable, the organic solvents are required. Normally they are used ether. Here amyl alcohol is taken. Okay, it is a reaction happens in the medium of number 5 of paper 2 chemistry. So it is given that it is a peptide. Of course, it is a tripeptide. It is combined. It is resulted on combination of 3 different amino acids. The tripeptide has given. The structure of tripeptide has given. Okay, here normally tripeptide means it is a mixture of 3 different amino acids. It means an amino acid normally we say an amino acid normally we have L configuration like this. So this is a different of course in the resultant tripeptide by combination of 3 amino acids. Of course, so I can say that the COOH and H2 is a common every amino acid, and whereas this alkyl part is different. I think there are 3 amino acids involved in that. Of course, in the first case, the R group is this part. This is the R group in one of the amino acid. That means it comes up to this part. This is of one amino acid actually, and we can say that in the second amino acid is comes up to COOH. It comes up to this. COOH is alpha amino, and the group this is called CH2COOH. The R group in the second part of amino acid is CH2COOH, and third amino acid is nothing but COOH, CH2NH2, and the another one is of course this one. This is the R group. So it is a tripeptide, no doubt. Just for an idea, it is a tripeptide. In that the alkyl groups appeared is one of the amino acid is the phenol group is appeared as a side chain. That is R group of amino acid, L amino acid. In the middle part, the CH2COOH is the R group. Whereas in the third part, this one, this is nothing but CH2, amino group like that. Okay. So now the question is, if the absolute values of the net charge of the peptide, now it just to this is a peptide, tripeptide is checking a different medium of pH 2, pH maintained the 2. Then what is the charges? pH of 6, what is the net charge of the tripeptide? At pH of 11, what is the net charge of this peptide? That is the question. Normally there is an influence of pH over these amino acids. If suppose you know this, if you take an amino acid, normally amino acid, this is an amino acid which is supposed to be existed in this way also, we can say the CO minus NH3 plus H and R. Of course it is called deuterion. It is called deuterion, its nature is neutral because plus 1 and minus 1. So this is going to be exist like this. Okay, but this is the charge, net charge of this is influenced by pH. That is the property of amino acids. If suppose if this is acidified, that means when you maintain the pH of less than 7, when you maintain acidic medium, then what happens? This will be protonated. This will converted to, we get this kind of form. That means the neutral form is converted to a cation form. It becomes net charge of the cation. Okay, it is listed. I can say that it is net charge of positive otherwise. If suppose the same thing runs in basic medium, what happens? Then it picks out the proton of NH3 plus, and the resultant will be, I can say, NH2 CO minus H and R. That means it is in that. Now the charge of this amino acid is negative. That means the medium have the infinite. That means here pH is maintained as greater than 7. So based on the pH value, the charge of an amino acid will be changed. Like that, it is taken as a tripeptide. There also there is a charge. The net charge of tripeptide will be altered based on the medium maintained. So what mediums are maintained? They perform 3 different experiments. In one of the experiment, the pH is maintained 2. The second experiment pH is maintained 6, and third experiment pH is maintained 11. So then what is the net charges? Net charges at 3 different experiments is taken as Z1, Z2, Z3. If you take the modulus of those charges, sum of them is what? That is the question. Okay. So this is the concept behind to answer this question. Okay. Now let us try to analyze now. That means here Now let me use this concept to answer this question. So here, suppose if you maintain pH of 2, the pH of 2 it is of acidic medium. That means it is an acidic medium. So in acidic medium, what happens? That means amines groups normally interact. The amines, we know the amines, so they will be converted into. Let me write like this. They just converted as NH3+. Okay. So we can say that the amines are, we take neutral form initially. So the amines only converted as NH3+. That means how many amines groups are there? 1, 2. 1, 2. This is a amide. This is amide. Don't say that this is amide. This is amide. This is amide. This is also amide. So the number of amide groups is here is 1 and here is 1. So there are only 2 NH2 groups. So those will convert those will converted as a positive charges. That means there are 2 amine groups. That means you will get 2 of NH3+. So the net charge is going to be, I can write +2. Otherwise the magnitude of charge in acidic medium is going to be 2 units. That is, of course, it's nothing but Z1. They want to say that this is Z1. If suppose if you maintain pH of 4, just go absolutely basic medium. That means pH 11. So that is means it is a basic medium. In basic medium, which is going to interact? The base is going to interact with the acids. The acids are here, can consider carboxylic acid. Carboxylic acid going to interact with hydroxide. It means the COOH groups is converted into COO minus. There are how many COOH groups? 2 COOH. That means 2 CO minus. But you know, other than the COOH group, the phenolic group is also interacts with sodium hydroxide. The phenolic is a substrate acid to interact with the hydroxide and to go for the right side. That means to convert it as a phenoxide. Okay. So the phenol and sodium hydroxide, these two are a strong substantially acid and base to give the respective conjugate acids and bases. So I want to say that if you just take a phenolic form, that is also converted as a phenoxide. That means I can say because of this carboxylate 2 units of negative charge, because of this phenoxide 1 unit, so overall charge will be, this is nothing but they want to say it is Z3. So the Z1, that is the resultant net charge in acidic medium, that is 2 units. The net charge resulted in basic medium is also 3 units. Then what is Z2? Z2, which happens at neutral, it almost happens at medium of pH is equal to 6. At pH of 6, what happens? They simply exist as such. There is no question of interaction of amine groups. There is no question of interaction of even carboxylic acid groups. Otherwise, we can say that. Otherwise, in neutral medium, I can say that there is a transfer of proton from COOH to NH2. That means it gets negative charge, it gets positive charge. The overall charge will be 0. So when pH is equal to 6, there is the net charge is going to be 0, because at that moment this gets CO minus, this gets as NH3+. This gets as CO minus, this gets as NH3+. Like that, the overall charge is going to be 0. Like it forms a jitter ion like that. So that's why if you sum up all these, at Z2 is equal to 0, but this is 3 units, this is of 2 units, so answer is 5. Okay. So just the property of amino acid is required to answer this question. So answer is 5. So it is an integer question, answer of 4. Okay. Now this is the question number 6. Okay, here the question is organic compound CI-O2 rotates plane polarized light. So which rotates plane polarized, that indicates the compound is optically active. Okay, that means it's supposed to have a chirality nature, like that. So it produces a pink color with neutral FeCl3. Normally, aqueous FeCl3 which gives pink color whenever there is a phenol groups are there normally. There is a ferric form, the ferric ion forms a complex with phenoxide that makes that is a pink color. The complex resulted interaction of ferric ion with the phenol, but complexes are pink in color. So there is presence of pink color we can expect. So what is the total number of all possible isomers for this compound? Okay, that is isomers is asked. But condition is it must be rotates the plane polarized. That means it is an optically active compound, we have to write the possible optically active compounds we supposed to be write for that compound. So let us guess one of the compound, one of the structure for this. So let us write a phenolic structure. A phenolic structure means normally this is a phenol. So this is required condition because a pink color is produced with FeCl. When it is introduced with FeCl, the pink color is applied. That is normally possible whenever the phenol group is appeared. So now we have totally 8 carbons are there. 8 carbons. 8 carbons, but hydrogens is 10. That means with reference to 8 we can write the number of maximum number of hydrogens. If it is saturated, that is 80. If it is saturated. But there is a decrease of how many hydrogens? Decrease of 8 hydrogens. Then only we will get C8H10. That means 8 hydrogens means the decrease of hydrogen means unsaturation index. That is the degree of unsaturation index will be, we can say 4. It is 4. That indicates the degree of unsaturation is of course with reference to this benzene ring, because there is one cyclic bond and 3 pi bonds. Presence of one pi bond decreases 2 hydrogens, and presence of one cyclic bond decreases 2 hydrogens. So the unsaturation index for benzene ring is equal to 4, that we know. So that means there is no more any kind of unsaturation other than this part. And we can write now there is 2 more carbons are there. Let me write one of the form. 1, 2. But there is a chiral carbon is also required because it rotates plane polarized light. Let me write, if I write here, one as let me put as OH and H, then I will put here. So now it satisfies the formula. C8H10, 2 oxygens are there, 8 hydrogens are there, and satisfies the degree of unsaturation. So this is the accepted formula. Okay. Unsaturation. What is degree of unsaturation? It is a 4 units with reference to benzene. And moreover, this carbon is what? It is a chiral carbon. It is a chiral carbon. So it is an accepted structure for that molecular formula. And also the condition is accepted for this structure. That means it is an optically active, which rotates the plane polarized light because it is having one chiral carbon. So that makes we can say the compound will have chirality. A chirality means what is meant by chirality? Chirality means its mirror image is not supposed to be superimposed over it. Suppose we take mirror image of left hand, left palm, its mirror image is right palm. Both are not identical. The left globe and right globe are mirror images one to another. Both are different. Such relation is responsible for chirality. So the chirality is required condition to obey this experimental fact, that is, which rotates the plane polarized light. So just I am taking one of the chiral carbon. This is accepted. Now for this, how many isomers are possible? Now by looking this, by changing the position of either this group or this group, now both are adjacent position. They both are in ortho position. We can write both with reference to meta position, both with reference to para position. That means we can write 3 different structures with reference to this. And in each structure we are having, suppose in ortho form, there is a plus form and minus form. Yes or no? Because they obey the optical isolation. Okay, so like that we have everywhere plus form and minus form. So totally these are mirror images, these are mirror images, one minute. This is one pair. When you write for this compound, both the groups in ortho form. It is now plus form as well as minus form. This is one set of enantiomer. If you write with reference to meta position, OH is written instead of here, you write here. So 1, 3 positions are meta positions. So in that case, once again we have 2 compounds. The relation is one is plus form, other one is minus form. Both are relation of mirror images for the other, but not superimposable. They are called one set of enantiomers. This is another set of enantiomers. Therefore, ultimately we get 3 sets of enantiomers. Totally 6 isomers we can say. By looking the structure, we can say 1, 2, 3. But each structure we have 2 isomers in terms of plus form and minus form. So answer is 6. So question number 6. Answer is also 6. Okay, like that. It is an integer case. If you go for one more structure, it is an alcohol. If you write, for example, ether for this. But if you want to write a structure like by put the condition of phenol, and let us write ether for this. That means ether means we just put let me write like this, CH2CH. It is also an isomer for this. It is a structural isomer. Alcohol and ethers are structural isomers. But is it obey the condition condition of this one? Is it obeys? It is a plain polarized light? No, because it is not a chiral. It doesn't have any chiral carbon. That's why don't go for this. So only you have to consider in reference to chiral carbon. You have only the possible options like 6. Now this is about the multiple option questions. That is the question number 7 part 2 chemistry. So it is a question based on you can say the magnetic behavior of the substance. That is whenever the substance is a paramagnetic in nature, which is normally attracted by the magnets. Whenever the substance is diamagnetic, which is slightly repelled by the magnet. So that is just shown here by diagrammatically. You just see there is initially the substance and some weight both are balanced by using a simple balance. By using a balance, a simple balance is used to think about both the masses are equal. The mass about for example certain grams will be there, so mass will be there, about 1 gram maybe like that. So the compound will be there. So initially it is balanced. But now in the situation is I can say there is a balance and magnetic field is absent. Here we are not applying any magnetic field to the substance because we are interested to think about what will happen to the substance once magnetic field is applied. Whether it is deflecting, having any movement or not, towards down or upwards, that is the main. So for example, if it is towards down means attacked by magnet. For example, the second situation, the magnet is used. The magnetic field is applied for the substance X. Then what is happening? Here it is unbalanced, magnetic field is present. So the diagram, from the diagram we can understand that the magnet field is responsible to push the substance up. It's because of repelling. That means the substance is repelled by the magnet. That is normally this diagram. Then the property of X here is a diamagnet. I can say this diagram shows that it is a diamagnetic in nature. Diamagnetic. So from this I can say the nature of X from this diagram I can say it is a diamagnet because it is slightly repelled by this magnet, that's why it is pushing to up. It is unbalanced situation. The object is unbalanced, the substance is unbalanced with the given mass, but here it is a balanced. Now if you go for the second scenario, there once again the mass and the substance is in unbalanced manner. In this situation the substance X is attracted by the magnet, it is pulled by the magnet. Where it is pulling, it is pushing, like that. Under pulling is possible when the nature of substance is paramagnetic. So from this diagram I can understand the nature of the X is paramagnetic. So we must be able to say, so which substance is paramagnetic or which substance is diamagnetic. Based on that we can select the options. So here the substance X, 4 different substances are given. That is first option H2O liquid, second option potassium ferrocyanide in solid form, third option oxygen gaseous form, and fourth option the substance benzene in liquid form are taken. And their behavior has given expertly what is happening. If you know theoretically what is their nature, that is whether paramagnetic or diamagnetic, then we can answer the right options. See for example H2O liquid. And what is the nature of H2O liquid as per your knowledge? H2O liquid which is having a bend shape, there is no question of any off-field orbitals. The presence of off-field orbitals is responsible to behave certain magnetic moment. They are called paramagnetism. So H2O is a substance. There is no question of any off-field orbitals anywhere in the substance. That's why it is a diamagnetic in nature. I want to say that H2O is a diamagnetic. If X is K for efficiency, it is a complex. It is a complex with the coordination number 6. Definitely it is an octahedral geometry complex. So where the ligand is cyanide, it is a carbon donor ligand. So it is a strong ligand, strong field ligand. In strong field ligand normally it involves D2sp3 hybridization. So D2sp3. What is the oxidation number of iron here? It is of +2. So if you write configuration of iron, so we have iron. Iron is of 26. Argon, you can write 3d6 4s2. If you write Fe +2 form, in +2 form, it is going to be argon. You can write it is going to be D6 configuration. But the suggested hybridization is D2sp3. As it is a strong ligand, what hybridization is suggested for here? Complex. You can write the suggested hybridization here. That is, let me say, 3D, 4s, 4p. Here hybridization suggested is D2sp3. D2sp3. That means the existed 6 electrons of d orbitals is going to be filled in the first 3 rooms. So there is no question of any off field. So concluded, as there is a strong ligand of cyanide, then hybridization is D2sp3, where the ferrous ion Fe plus T have 6 electron D6 configuration. Definitely they will existed as a paired one. There is no question of off field. Whenever there is no off field orbitals in the taken substance in the orbital, no off field orbitals in the orbitals of the taken substance, then that is a diamagnetic. So I want to say that once again the nature of the second one is also diamagnetic. Let us go for third one, O2 gas. You know, O2 gas is a substance. Based on molecular orbital theory, we can understand that there is 2 off field orbitals are there. So O2 is a paramagnetic substance. If you write the electronic configuration by filling the electrons of the 16 electrons of O2 molecule in the respective molecular orbitals, then you identify there is a 2 off field orbitals in the part of pi. The part of pi molecular orbitals. So I want to say that it is a paramagnetic. So oxygen is a paramagnetic. Based on MO theory we can conclude. If we are able to write molecular orbital energy diagram for O2, then you can understand there are 2 off field orbitals are there. Then theoretically I can say this is paramagnetic. Benzene. So benzene is a situation. It is nothing but here a benzene normally it is of sp2 hybridization, and there is each and every carbon we have one unhybridized p orbital with one off field orbital, but they will be in conjugation, they will form the pi bonds, and moreover they are all revolving. All the 6 electrons, all the 6 p orbital electrons over 6 carbons is simply revolved all over the ring, but there is no question of any off field orbitals once again. That's why I can conclude here the nature of this is also diamagnetic. So now we can answer. So which is correct option. So as the substance first one is diamagnetic, we know as theoretically. So the deflection must be, it follows the second situation. That means it deflected to upwards, that is expected. Yes. It is given as upwards, it is correct. So it is correct. Okay, diamagnetic, so it is deflectwards, correct. So first statement is correct. Then the second substance diamagnetic, that means expecting deflection is also once again the second diagram. That is upwards. Yes, it is given once again upwards, it is also correct. The third substance, that is O2 gas, I told it is a paramagnet, that means it is supposed to be pulled by the magnet. That means that the third diagram is expected. It must be deflected towards the fan, is deflected towards applied magnetic field. That means downwards, yes, correct, it is given once again downwards. The last substance is benzene, and we suggested it is a diamagnetic. So it is supposed to be expected as upward, but what is given? Yes, the deflection of the fan is upwards. Yes, it is also correct. 7. So whenever diamagnetic, this is the situation. Whenever paramagnetic, this is the situation. That means among the 4 options, only third substance is supposed to be deflect towards downwards. Okay, that is correct. Okay. The remaining all given as upwards. Yes, upwards, downwards. Sorry, this actually given question is downwards. In the question it is given as downwards. This is actually this. Okay, now you tell me. So if the last option is where the benzene liquid is deflected toward downwards, is it correct? No, because its nature is diamagnetic. That's why this statement is wrong. So the answer will be the first three statements are correct. So answer is we can write answer is A, B, C. A, B, C is the answer. When you give A, this is the question number 8. Number 2, chemistry, question number 8. Here some plots are given, some graphs are given with reference to a particular reaction. So which graphs are correct? That is the question. So which plots are correct as per consider this chemical reaction. And if you look at this chemical reaction, it is nothing but a nucleophilic substitution. where Br of this alkyl halide is replaced with OH. And moreover, this alkyl halide is a tertiary alkyl halide. That's why we can say that the suggested substitution is SN1 substitution, that is a unimolecular nucleophilic substitution. So the involved substitution is a SN1 mechanism. We can consider for this it is a SN1 mechanism is considered. What does it mean? That means if we just take Rx, this first break up to R plus and X minus. And this is the slow step normally. And furtherly, for this R plus, the nucleophile like OH minus is added, we get ROH. So this is normally the mechanism which involves in two steps. So among the two steps, the first step is the slowest type of the reaction. So which is a very slow among it mechanism is having two steps. The first step is ionization of alkyl halide to form the carbocation. The next one is addition of the nucleophile to carbocation to give the product. So the first reaction is a slow step, in that only one molecule is involved. That's why it is called first order. So what is in terms of kinetics, the rate equation for this we can write the rate is equal to rate constant concentration of Rx. So this is the differential form of rate equation for this chemical reaction. So it is conclusion is what? It is a first order reaction. So with reference to first order reaction, we are supposed to answer all these plots. So what is the first option as given? The given it is about half-life period versus initial concentration of the reactant P. Initial concentration of the reactant. Here P is the reactant. T 0. Square bracket refers to concentration. 0 refers to at the time of 0 second. So initial concentration of P is in x-axis and half-life is in y-axis. In the case of this equation, that is a first order rate equation, we have the integrated equations are like K is equal to 1 by T ln of initial concentration divided by final concentration. We can write this expression. When you take T is equal to T off, that means the time taken, that means if you just from this expression what you will get, the half-life is related to the initial concentration by this way. So this is the relation between the half-life to initial concentration of the respective reactant for different order of reactions. Where n is equal to, where n is the order of reaction. As it is a first order reaction, if you place n is equal to 1, that means 1 minus 0. That means so half-life is independent of the P naught. So only in first order reaction, half-life is independent of the initial concentration. Yes or no? As per this equation, we can say this is a derived equation where it gives the relation between half-life period and initial concentration of the reactant. So both are independent from this expression. That's why this graph says that as initial concentration is even if we change initial concentration of reactant, the half-life doesn't change. So this graph explains that one only. So this is the correct graph. And this is once again a plot is given in reference to initial rate to initial concentration. That means from this you can understand. So it is nothing but initial rate. This is initial rate is equal to rate constant into initial concentration of, that is reactant Rx power 1. That means this indicates that if you increase the concentration of this T, this rate is also increased. Okay, the rate is directly proportional to the concentration of the reactant. So they are directly proportional. So it indicates that there is having a proportionality. As if we increase the concentration of this reactant, the rate is also increasing. That means this is not the graph. The graph is supposed to be like this. The graph is, if we take y-axis, it is mx. The graph is supposed to be like this. This is the correct graph. So this is wrong. This is the correct graph because y is equal to mx. If you apply here, based on this equation, this is correct, this is wrong. Okay, now the next one is they want to think about the concentration of the product Q. What about the concentration of Q with respect to time? So we can say that normally in the case of reaction, the reactant concentration decreases and product concentration is going to be increases. If you think about the reactant concentration decreases with respect to time and product formation, the Q is increased with respect to time, no doubt in that. So as numerator is having the Q, so normally it is with respect to it is increases. And it is a fixed value. The P naught initial taken concentration act is a fixed value. So definitely this is a fixed value, but this value is gradually increased with respect to time. But if you note its values experimentally, the graph is not like this. The graph is going to be like this. You will get this kind of way. Okay. For if you take in terms of reactants, the graph will be decreases like this. Like this is for P, this is for Q, but not like this. Okay. So decreases. So when you consider for reactant, the decrease of concentration with respect to time will be like this. If you think about formation of product with respect to time, it will be like this. So the graphs will be like this and like this. That will be normally happens. This is a decreased concentration of reactant, this is increased concentration of product. But they are giving, instead of giving this way, they are giving like this. So that's why this is also wrong. So it is somewhat like experimental from experimental graphs. If you note it, then it will going to be not like this, it is going to be like this. That's why this is also wrong. And now this is the expression by taking this expression, that means this equation. This equation helps us to analyze that plot. That means from this equation what we can write? From this we can write ln P concentration at time B divided by concentration of reactant at initial. That is final concentration by initial concentration. So ln of initial concentration of final concentration is equal to K into T. That means now we can apply Y is equal to mx. That means so if you take this parameter in y axis, that is ln of initial concentration of reactant to the final concentration of the reactant. Ln of P naught by T is equal to Kt. So for this, that means so if you take the graph not like this, this is not way of taking. If you take the graph, that is P naught by P of ln. If you take ln P naught by P, then this graph is correct. Then you will get like this. But instead of taking this way, they are taking reciprocal of that. Okay. So it is a wrong statement. So ln P naught by P is equal to Kt. So as time increases, this ratio is also increases, but not reciprocal of that. The reciprocal means if you take, you will get minus. That means opposite way you take. Okay. So that's why this is also wrong. So it is a question based on chemical kinetics. So analyzing the equations related to first order kinetics helps us to answer this question. Basically, this is a nucleophilic substitution where tertiary alkyl halide is used. That's why it refers to SN1 mechanism. That means which involves two steps, where the first step is the Stoichkov step and rate determining step, where the overall speed of the reaction is decided by that first step. That means the expression we can write rate is equal to rate constant into concentration increase. Okay, from that we can analyze, we can get integrated form of the rate equation for first order is this one, and half-life expression we get like this. Okay, so answer is what? Answer is only A is correct. Only A. If you put A, you will get 4 marks. If you put other than A, anything, if you put something like A, B, C, or if you put B, or if you put only C, that is not correct, and you will get minus 2 marks. Okay, like that. Here there is only 2 scopes. If you put A, you will get plus 4. If you put A, B, C, D, or A, B, that means you will get once again minus 2 only. Okay, you will get the option of only minus 2 or plus 4 in this option, in this part. That is the question, because only one option is there. If you put appropriately to this, then you will get plus 4. If you not put appropriately, then there is a scope of minus 2. That is the allotment of marks here. Now, the question number 9, paper 2 chemistry. It is based on extraction of aluminium from bauxite. So it is a process of electrolytic reduction of aluminium in order to get metal aluminium. So we normally, if you think about the diagram, where the diagram is normally, we have this is made up of steel, and here we are having basically Al2O3, which is an electrolyte by extraction. So I want to say that here fluoride, that means anion, is anode, which is going to be positive. whereas this is going to be negative. So this is cathode, whereas this is anode. This is anode, normally made up of graphite rods, that is made up of carbon. Where which is a steel vessel, it is made up of steel vessel, but inside it is coated with carbon. Inside it is coated with a carbon. So the cathode is a steel vessel with a lining of carbon. This cathode. It is about the anode made up of carbon. Now let us reduce the reaction. I think this statement is correct only. Now what is happening here? Here we are taking Al2O3, but along that we also take Na3AlF6. So the required the necessity of Na3AlF6, which helps, we can say it is somewhat like impurity to this kind of this substance. Whenever some other substance is added to a particular substance, then normally the melting point of the one with having higher one, that melting point will be reduced. That is referred as a depression freezing point. It is one of the colligative property. Like that, there is a decrease of freezing point. Otherwise, we can say the melting point of alumina by addition of this impurity. I can say this is acting as impurity. Otherwise, it has its role in the reaction. So I can say addition of this Na3AlF6 lowers the melting point of alumina. It is also true. And what is it? So other than decreasing melting point of this, how it is involved in the reactions? The reactions normally it is existed as AlF3. This AlF3 that is having, this is supposed to give ions like Al plus 3 and F minus. This Al plus 3 which takes electrons, so both are connected to battery. That Al plus 3 which takes electrons, I can say the Al plus 3 takes electrons, that means undergoing reduction, and reaches to this part. This is a part of negative plate that is acted as a cathode. It is a steel vessel coated with carbon, that is a cathode where the aluminium will be approached. Of course, that is extracted from here. Aluminium is just removed time from here. And what about the reactions happening at the plus electrode, that is at the anode? The fluoride, actually what happens is, the fluoride is it gives F2 gas by ejection of 2 electrons. That is nothing but loss of electrons is oxidation. That is happens at positive plate. It is a anode. Reaction in anode is, this is the reaction happens because of addition of fluoride. This fluorine is interacted with Al2O3. Now because high reactivity of fluorine that interacts with Al2O3 and converts as AlF3 plus oxygen gas is evolved. We balance this equation, you will get 2 aluminum, that means 6, that means you will get 3 moles of F2. That means how many moles of oxygen is evolved? 3 by 2. 3 by 2 moles of oxygen gas is evolved. And this evolved gas, oxygen gas is at which portion? At positive plate of the electrolytes, that is at the anode, which is made up of carbon. Because of evolution of this oxygen, these carbon rods will decompose, because they will simply decompose. That means they will just convert it into CO2. That means the graphite rods, this is responsible to decompose carbon rods into CO2. So there is evolution of CO2, and there is a requirement to replace these rods, that is graphite rods, from time to time, because they will be gradually degraded because of oxidation of those graphite rods due to evolution of oxygen gas at the portion of anode. Okay, this is the idea behind this extraction. So now you tell me, now the question is what? Yes, this is correct. Addition of energy lowers melting point, and CO2 gas is evolved at the anode during electron. This is correct or not? This is also correct, because I told this oxygen interacts with these rods, and this interacts with the electrode, that is with the anode. It is made up of carbon and gives what? CO2. There is evolution of CO2 gas is evolved at the anode during electrolysis. It's correct. Because of that only, they are time to time changing these graphite rods. Okay. So these three statements, B, C, D, is about the statements related to extraction of aluminium. Extraction of aluminium from alumina, Al2O3. Now let us think about this statement. This is a statement that is hydrated Al2O3 precipitates when CO2 is bubbled through a solution of sodium aluminate. I think this is a portion related to, that is a purification of bauxite. The purification of bauxite, where normally that is why purification, and is first converted into aluminate. That is, it is treated with some slightly basic solution that is converted into aluminate, which is dissolved in aqueous solution. That aluminate once again get back to Al2O3 by acidification, like that. So that means now the option is given when CO2 gas is bubbled through a solution of sodium aluminate. So aluminate is what? Aluminate is, we can write aluminate is Al O3 minus, which is dissolved in water. Once you pass CO2 gas in water, what happens? That CO2 normally with water, it is a weak acid, forms a carbonic acid, and which is capable to give H plus ions. So it provides the medium of H plus ions. Those H plus ions are helpful to convert this into Al2O3. Al2. 3 oxygens, you can put 6 H plus. That means you get Al2. Al2O3 is, if you take 2 species of aluminate, then you get 6 oxygens. 6 oxygens means Al2O3. Out of the 6 oxygens, 3 oxygens is the part of Al2O3. Remaining 3 oxygens comes out as water, otherwise they may be formed hydrated. 3 oxygens, then 6 H plus ions, that is 3H2O, like this. So this conversion, this is a dissolvable part, it is undissolvable part, that is a precipitated. So the aluminate is just required to acidify, which is possible by passing CO2 gas. By bubbling the CO2 gas, that CO2 interacts with water, that gives a carbonic acid and provides H plus ions. So there is H plus ions responsible to convert the dissolved aluminate into undissolved part of alumina in hydrated form. Okay, so this is a part of purification of oxide. So this is also correct. Oh, here all the statements are correct. So answer is A, B, C, D. Now let us continue the discussion. That is the question number 13, which is an integer type of question. So here the question is about a solution of 0.1 molar weak base is titrated with 0.1 molar of a strong acid. Okay, the variation of pH of solution with the volume of HA added is shown in the figure. Okay, that means what is saying? So there is it is a titration. They are taking a base here. It is taking here acid is added. Both are about 0.1 molar each. So while adding, initially the base pH is given. That is, of course, base means is a higher value, that is greater than 7. That means the pH initially is here. So it is just moving like this. The graph is just moving like this. You can understand. So here, on addition of 0.1 molar HCl, something like a strong acid, like namely HA. So at one moment there is a sharp change in pH. A sharp change in pH normally indicates the neutralization point between two reacting solutions. That is between weak base and strong acid. So at which point, an addition of how much ml the neutralization is taken, the sharp change happens. There is a sudden jump from 10 to 3. That means in basic medium 10. Once it falls to the acidic medium 3. The sudden jump has taken. So it refers to neutralization point. What is neutralization point? The neutralization point, what is the volume of this acid is added? 6 ml is added. The 6 ml is required in order to neutralize this base. That is the point we can get from the graph. But the question is they are asking pKb. So what is the pKb of this base? What is the pKb of this weak base? So the pKb of this weak base normally we can obtain by using Anderson equation. So in Anderson equation, it is about how to find the pH of the buffer. The pH of the buffer of acidic buffer or a basic buffer. So we can consider here a situation of basic buffer can be considered. Suppose if you add instead of 6 ml, when you add 6 ml, complete base is neutralized. Instead of that, just half of that is added. That is about 3 ml is added. Then only 50% of this is converted into this one. That means so if we add out of 6 ml, 3 ml is added. Then 50% of this is converted into respect to conjugate acid. So then there will be 1:1 ratio of the weak base and its conjugate acid will be appeared. Then we can think of how to find the pH or pOH of that solution. As it is a basic buffer, what is the expression for basic buffer? We can write for basic buffer pOH is equal to pKb plus, we can write its conjugate acid concentration by its weak base concentration. So when you add instead of 3 ml, if you add exact half of this, that is around 3 ml. You add about 3 ml, then what happens? So at that moment, what is the pH? That is, of course, that is in basic medium only. That means at this point. So if you just move like this, you will get somewhere its value is around 11 ml. We can consider it is about 11 ml. Sorry, it's a pH of 11 ml is considered. So when you add about 3 ml of strong acid, what is the pH? Is about 11 ml. 11 pH of 11 is considered. That means pH of 11 means what is the pOH? pOH at that moment is equal to 3. That means now at the time of forming of buffer, that means only 50% of this base is neutralized on addition of the strong acid. Then what happens? They will be, these both will be equal amount. This and this will be equal amount. That means we get pOH is equal to pK. That situation is arising. So at that moment, at the stage of half neutralization of the weak base, it is a result of a buffer. At that moment, what is the pH is noticed? pH is noticed as 11. Otherwise, the pOH is going to be 3. That means this is the pOH. We got the pKb. That is nothing but pKb. So in this way, we can find the pKb of weak base. Just by using the expression related to buffer. To find the pH of the buffer. So as it is a weak base, we can use this equation. For a weak base, the weak base and its conjugate acid, the pOH is given by this equation according to Anderson equation. According to Anderson's equation. So Anderson's equation is helpful to find the pKb of this weak base. pKb of this weak base. Question number 14 from physical chemistry. So it is a question based on the Raoult's law. So there are liquids A and B form ideal solution for all compositions of A and B. That means there are two liquids are there. That means there is liquid A and liquid B. They may be having the initial pressures, individual pressures may be normally we write P0 A and P0 B. Okay. Two such solutions with 0.25 and 0.5. Two such solutions. 0.2 and 0.5 mole fractions of A have the total vapor pressures of 0.3 and 0.4 bar respectively. That means they just prepared two different compositions, two solutions on mixing of A and B. Just on mixing of A and B, they prepare two solutions. That means if we take one particular solution, solution 1, let me say the solution 1, where the mole fraction of A is, the mole fraction of A, the solution is 0.25. 0.25, and thereby the total vapor pressure is the total vapor pressure will be 0.3 bar, and there is another way, another composition, mixing of both A and B. We got the second solution where the mole fraction of A is going to be 0.5. Then the total pressure is going to be, they are given 0.4 bar. This is 0.3 bar and 0.4 bar. Okay, this is the data. Now, what is the vapor pressure of pure liquid B? Then can you find what is the vapor pressure of pure liquid B? It is the question. So from this data, I hope you can find the equations. So what is the total pressure? Normally, total pressure of the solution is given by. We can write the total pressure is nothing but pressure of A plus pressure of B. That is the partial pressure of component A and partial pressure of component B. And in case of partial pressure of A, what we can write? The total pressure is equal. In case of this, we can write P0 of A into XA. So in this case, P0 of B into XB. This is the expression we know normally. Now from two different combinations, what are the values? That values we can substitute in this part. So this is the equation is helpful to get two equations. This is the reference equation. In order to get two equations, with reference to the prepared two different solutions on mixing of A and B. So let us try to get the one equation with reference to solution 1. So what is the total pressure here? It is given as one of the equation is that is total pressure is 0.3 bar. And what is P naught of A? We don't know. P naught of A we don't know. P naught of A and XA. What is mole fraction of A at one moment? That is 1 by 4. When it is 1 by 4. That means what is the mole fraction of B? That means A is about 1/4 out of the total part. Then the B will be automatically 3/4 because sum of the mole fractions is equal to 1. So this is one possible equation by using the solution 1. Let us try to get one more equation by using second solution. That is the total pressure is 0.4 bar and P naught of A, where in this situation 50 and 50%. Mole fraction of A is 1 by 2. That means it is 1 by 2, then automatically this is also 1 by 2. So these are the two equations we got. So I think these two equations will help us to get what is P naught of A and what is P naught of B. See, for example, if you want to cancel this term, P naught of A term is cancelled, then you will get some information about P naught of B. So to cancellation of P naught of A, you just multiply this equation by 2. Because here 1 by 4, here 1 by 2. When you multiply this equation by 2, then you will get this becomes 1 by 2. So that's why, what is the resultant equation? That means on multiplying the equation obtained from solution 1 with the 2, then the P naught A term we can get cancelled. So let us write the equations now. That is 0.6 is equal to 2 times of that is nothing but P naught of A into 1 by 2 I will get. Now that is P naught of B, now 3 by 2 I will get. 3 by 2 and multiplication of 2 on both the sides of the equation. Okay, now the next one is 0.4 is as such I am writing. P naught of A into 1 by 2. This is P naught of B into 1 by 2. Okay, if you add the two equations, what you will get? Otherwise, you just subtract from one to another. You just subtract from upper equation minus down equation. That means this term will get cancelled. This term will get cancelled. So exactly same as here, positive and negative. Then this becomes 0.6 minus 0.4 is equal to 0.2. Here this is it is of 1 and 3 by 2 means 1 and half. This is only half. 1 and half minus half is equal to 1. That means you will get P naught of B. That is P naught B is equal to 0.2 bar. P naught B is equal to 0.2 bar. So the pressure of this solution is equal to, what is the answer? The P naught B is equal to 0.2 bar. That is the answer. The same way, if you want to find question number 15. So the question is, it is based on to get some idea about the potential energy of the two atoms when it is going to come closer. And you want to say that, so how the situation of the two hydrogen atoms when they come closer like that. And of course, the meaning of diagram is also we have learned in the textbook. That means at the time of chemical bond formation between two hydrogen atoms, that is initially the hydrogen atoms energy is taken as when there is an infinite distance. Actually, we say that the hydrogen atoms when they are at infinite distance, then normally we say the energy will be 0. But once they come closer and closer, at one moment we can say there is no attractions and no repulsions. And beyond that, still closer, then repulsions are operated. For example, beyond this distance, if the distance is here, approachable distance, then there is here attractions are operated. I want to say that just interested to show in the diagram, they are just to point out the distance here d as d0, and at the distance of d0 between two hydrogen atoms, can you say the respective potential energy? The potential energy is taken in the y-axis. The respective potential energy of the system of hydrogen molecule is asked. So what the diagram says? The diagram says at this point you want to say that they are just coming closer, but at that moment there is no attractions as well as no repulsions. It is something like the two hydrogen atoms are exhibiting their individual identity. That means one hydrogen atom just to attraction towards its electron only, and another hydrogen have its nucleus attraction towards its electron. Now there is no situation of nucleus to nucleus repulsion, electron to electron repulsion also. That kind of situation is just mentioned here. But when you make them to bring closer, then the attractions are operated. Then what happens? The nucleus of one atom attracts the electron cloud of another atom. That will be going to happen. Like that. So, is interested to report what is the potential energy at the point of this distance. Normally, we are able to find out the potential energy of hydrogen atom. In the case of hydrogen atom, we just say that that is when electron is in a ground level. That means when electron is in a ground level, that is the nucleus attracts the electron. Hydrogen atom, when electron is in a ground level, that is orbit number 1. What is its energy in the case of hydrogen atom? In the case of hydrogen atom, the energy of this is going to be minus 1312 kilojoules per mole. Okay, if you work out the energy of electron in nth orbit, that is going to be minus 1312 kilojoules per mole when electron is in ground level. But he is asking about potential energy. You know, potential energy is twice to that of total energy. That means the value of potential energy is double of this one. That is 2 into minus 1312 kilojoules per mole. This is the potential energy with reference to one hydrogen atom. But the same situation we have to consider for two hydrogen atoms here. Because the two hydrogen atoms are at a distance where they are not interacted in terms of attraction, not in terms of repulsion. They are just having interaction of having the response of nucleus and the respective electron of that atom are connected, and of course in terms of ground state. That of course we studied in atomic structure also, the energy of hydrogen in ground level is given this one. So this is the potential with reference to one atom, but there are two hydrogen atoms are there. Then we have to just take double to that of this. That means twice to that one. That means 2 times of potential energy. 2 into potential energy of hydrogen atom is 0 because two hydrogen atoms are there. That means we get ultimately the value will be 4 into minus 13 kilojoules per mole. This is the answer. So answer will be, that means the potential, that is E naught, is asking the E naught. So what is the value of net potential energy as indicated in the figure when the distance between the two atoms is given as d0? Okay, this is nothing but so it is the potential energy for the system of two hydrogen atoms at this point of distance. It is just a calculation of potential energy for an individual hydrogen atom. But there are two hydrogen atoms, that's why we are taking 2 into potential energy of individual hydrogen atom, where electron considered in its ground state. Normally the potential energy is given by what? The potential energy normally is given by minus Gt squared by R. This is the expression. The potential, in order to find the potential energy of a particle, this is the expression. It is the atomic number, it is the charge of electron, it is the distance between the nucleus to electron. Okay. The potential energy for each hydrogen atom is determined like this. This is now the question number 16. This is from organic chemistry, that is the reaction of diazotization. So it has given that there is an aniline that is represented as P, and which performs react with these reagents and gives the product Q. But the obtained product is about only 75%. Then can you say what is the amount in grams of Q is obtained? That is the question. Okay, now how much of P is taken? Is taken 9.3 ml of P. But he is given density of P, that is about 1 gram per 1 ml. That means mass of 1 ml is equal to 1 gram for this reactant aniline. We are taking 9.3 grams, 9.3 ml. That means that is going to be 9.3 grams only. So how much is taken? 9.3 grams. 9.3 grams of this is taken. Then how much of Q will be formed? So what is the reaction here? Here the reaction of this is first it is undergo diazotization. That means it is converted into benzene diazoxide chloride. Okay. What is the electrophile generated by this? NO plus electrophile is generated, nitrogen ion. Once it is behaving as a nucleophile, then you can get what happens ultimately. It forms N2 plus will be resulted. On elimination of H2O, it forms N2 plus and Cl minus. That is the benzene diazoxide chloride is resulted. Product is you can say benzene N2 plus. Okay, this is the resin. N2 plus benzene diazoxide chloride. Chloride is the compound. This is the compound formed which is stable at this condition 0 to 5 degrees Celsius. So now this is behaving as what? This is normally behaving as an electrophile with some electron-rich species. They are behaving as a nucleophiles. So for example, it is called beta naphthol. It is a naphthol at beta position, alpha and beta position. It is called beta naphthol, which is a rich of electron which interacts to this electrophile normally via to this alpha position. So that means once interaction is taken, so then it will be forms like this. That means the product will be, we get the product is, product of that we can write as benzene and double bond here. This is it connected, this nitrogen is connected. That means actually it is a donor part, this carbon is a donor part that is connected to this nitrogen. So you can write benzene. So it is alpha position, it is OH. Like this. You can write it is a beta naphtha. It is connected alpha position. This is the product resulted. So initially it is in the form of maybe O minus, but because the base is there, NaOH is there. So actually in order to improve the nucleophilicity, the donor nature of this NaOH is required. In basic medium, its donor nature is increased. In basic medium we get beta naphthol is called phenoxide, O minus. Some O minus is formed. That is a good donor and it improves the nucleophilicity of this beta naphthol. So finally we get O minus here, but that is on acidification it is going to be OH. This is the product ultimately. This is nothing but the Q. This is the Q. Now for 9.3 grams of this reactant, how many grams of this will be formed? That is the question. So for 9.3, what is molar mass of this? This is nothing but we can write 6 carbons are there. That is 6 carbons means we can write 12, 6 are 72. And hydrogens are 5 plus 2, 7 hydrogens. 1 nitrogen, 14. So it is molar mass is 93 grams. Its molar mass is actually, it is 93 grams per mole. That is the status of aniline. That means we have taken actually only 9.3 grams. That means we have taken only 0.1 mole is taken. For every 1 mole of this gives, we get 1 mole of this. That means we expected the quantity of this is only 0.1 mole. 0.1 mole. But saying that only 75% yield is obtained. That means only 3/4 of this. That is going to be, we can write 0.075 mole we can write. It is less than 0.1 mole. That is 0.075 mole is the amount of this Q will be formed. It is asking in grams. That's why what is molar mass of this compound? What is molar mass of that? You can say this is nothing but here it is C6H5. But 6 carbons. Here 6. So here how many carbons? 10 carbons. 6 or 10. 10 plus 6. 16 carbons are there. 16 carbons, 2 nitrogens, and 1 oxygen, and hydrogens are here about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 hydrogens. 11 hydrogens. So what you will get? It is 11, 192, 28, and 16. 247 grams. So it is going to be 247 grams per 1 mole. That means we get 0.075 into 247. That is that much grams we are going to expect. Okay. So the reaction if once known, then we can go for the stoichiometry application. That is, if taken 0.1 mole, 0.1 mole supposed to give 0.1 mole, but 70% yield, that means 75, only 3/4 of the 0.1 mole, that is nothing but 0.075 mole. So from that we can find the mass of this compound resultant. Okay, now let us see the question number 17, which is based on the spontaneity of the process as given. So it is discussing about the reduction of Gascaride using coke. So the reaction, what is reaction of this one? This is Gascaride SnO2. Once it is reduced with coke, we get Sn plus CO. Okay, this is the reaction. Okay, solid, solid and gas. Okay, is interested to think about this process. So what temperature to be minimal required in order to perform this reaction? Okay, now normally by using an equation, that is second law of thermodynamics, it is an equation delta Z0 is equal to delta H0 minus T delta S0. So we know whenever the reaction is to be spontaneous, this value must be negative. But in equilibrium condition, we can say this value will be 0. So let us first find the equilibrium temperature. Thereafter, we can decide what is the temperature to be maintained. In order to have delta Z0 is going to be negative. So like that, the minimum temperature required in order to take this process can be reported. So that is at equilibrium, if it is 0 at equilibrium, then we can say that this is going to be equilibrium temperature. At that moment, I can say equilibrium temperature is nothing but delta H0 divided by delta S0. So we have to find delta H0 of reaction and delta S0 of reaction. Standard enthalpy change of the process and standard entropy change of the process to be found out. And they are given the values. To find delta H0, there will standard enthalpy of formation of substances is going to be 0 if that is in elemental form. That means if you take carbon and tin, for those two elements, the standard enthalpy of formations is going to be 0. Okay, how to find this one? We find normally that one by reaction by using this expression. That is for products minus reactants. Standard enthalpy of formation of products minus standard enthalpy of formation of reactant. That formula is helpful to find standard enthalpy change of the reaction. So here what are the products? The products are tin and CO2. I already told it is a standard state. So thermodynamically it is a stable at room temperature, that is thermodynamic conditions. So for this element we can take as a 0, standard enthalpy of formation. So what is standard enthalpy of formation of CO2? Minus 394. So minus 394 minus. In terms of react, once again here is one more element. That is of course a solid, that is considered graphite. But the standard enthalpy of formation is 0. So for this what is the value? The value will be given as minus 581 kilojoules per mole. Means you will get the value will be 581 minus 394. Okay, 187. It is going to be 187. Yes, 187 kilojoules. 187 kilojoules per mole. This is the standard enthalpy change of the reaction. Now let us try to find this value also. That value also is the same value. That is once again how you can find. That is delta S0 of reaction is equal to, once again, standard formations of products minus standard entropy change of formation of reactants. They are given what are the standard entropy, the standard entropy of formation of all the 4 components as given. So the reactant, the products are what? Sn and CO2. Sn and CO2. That is 52 plus 210. That means 262. We get 262 joule per Kelvin per mole with reference to products minus. For reactants, so that is SnO2 and CO, SnO2 and C. Sum of them is 56 plus 6. That is going to be 62. Like this. So answer it is going to be 200. 200 joule per Kelvin for mole. Okay. Standard enthalpy change of the process. Standard enthalpy change of the process. Okay, this is in kilojoules, this is in joules. That's why you get this one. It is nothing but 187 into 10 power 3 divided by 200. So, then we will get this part. Okay, this is nothing but joule per mole. This is joule per mole. This is joule per Kelvin per mole. That means the unit is going to be Kelvin. We will get the unit is going to be Kelvin. That is nothing but it is around we get 5 times. So 5 times of this one. So it is 935 Kelvin. So 935 Kelvin is the equivalent temperature of this process. So as the process is endothermic, if delta X naught is of positive, that is it is endothermic process. So for endothermic reaction, high temperatures are required in order to get spontaneity. So we supply more than this temperature in order to run the process, in order to favor reduction of gas steroid, in order to get the TB. Okay, equivalent temperature 935 and it is the minimum temperature to be maintained. So let us assume for this reaction a situation of complete dissolution where Q is greater than K. If it is a precipitation, then I can say that if Q is lesser than K, if Q is greater than K, what happens? When ion product concentration is greater, then it is preferred to move backward, that is a precipitation takes place. A situation and equilibrium where Q is equal to K. So these are the 3 conditions normally for an equilibrium. Whenever the reaction coefficient is equal to equilibrium constant, that is the stage of equilibrium. Where K means we can say KSP value. KSP of ZNS. So let us consider this. So let us take this condition where reaction coefficient and solvent product constant are equal. Where for that, how much of sulfide ion concentration is required? The sulfide ion concentration is influenced by what? It is influenced by H plus. Okay, its K value. Its K value is 1 into 10 power minus 21. Of 0.1 molar is taken. 0.1 molar. So they are taken this as 0.1 molar. And how much of this is required? So here to provide how much is required for get saturation of this one, that is we can write the KSP is equal to Zn plus 2 concentration into X minus 2 concentration. The KSP of Zns is 1.25 into 10 power minus 20. Zn plus 2 concentration is about 0.05 molar. And what is S minus 2? The required we have to find, because that is influenced by, that is decided by H plus ion concentration. So here the sulfide required is, that is going to be 5. We can write it is about 125, it is going to be 5. That means 25 times. You can write 25 into 10 power minus 22. 125 divided by 5, that is going to be 5 times. So 25 10 power minus 22, that much is required concentration of sulfide in order to attain this as an equilibrium condition. So to get saturation of ZNS in water, this is the required concentration of sulfide. In order to provide this much of sulfide, how much thickness is required? We want to say that this is about 25 into 10 power minus 22. So what is this is required? That is what is the expression of this? Expression of this is I can say that K is equal to H plus concentration whole cube S minus 2 divided by H to S concentration. On substitution you will get 10 4 minus 21 H plus concentration where S minus 2 is 25 into 10 4 minus 20. H to S we can take it as a point. So it is nothing but 10 4 minus 20. That means you will get cancel of all these numbers. 10 4 minus 21 that writes it, 10 4 minus 20 writes it. That means H plus concentration is equal to, we will get, that is H plus concentration. From result you will get what is H plus concentration. The H plus concentration is going to be 1 by 25. H plus concentration whole square is equal to 1 by 25. That is H plus concentration is equal to 1 by 5. It is nothing but you can write that is 2 into 10 power minus 1. 5 2. That is 0.2 times. That means pH is going to be 1 minus log. That is 1 minus 0. That is 0.7. So the pH to be maintained. Otherwise H plus is required. H plus concentration is only this one. That is a 0.2 is the answer. The 0.2 moles per liter of H plus ion is required in order to provide sufficient sulfide ion. That sufficient sulfide is enough to make it a situation of saturation, to make it situation of equilibrium.